I am about to start a business. Oh, startup, bright futures ahead, my friend. I'm about to start a business in drone flying. Which accounting software should I use? So it sounds like this is a service business, not that you're going to be manufacturing drones or buying and reselling drones. I hear drone flying. Therefore, the field is pretty wide open to you. And it depends, of course it depends. Here I go again. Don't worry, CPA certificate, you're staying there on the wall. Because someone asked me for an either or question, I have to say it depends, or else I could lose my CPA certification. So there are a couple of advantages to different packages. I'll give you a really quick rundown here. I mean, you get a group of accountants together in the same room, and the debate's going to heat up over which one's better. And I get that that you have a service industry. What I don't know, though, is what are your business goals? What's your end goal for your business? Now, that may seem like a very strategic question in the face of a very tactical, or a very strategic answer in the face of a very tactical question, but it's worth it. Because the last thing you want to do is to have to spend 4 figures converting from one system to another after your business has evolved and you've realized, uh-oh, I've just outgrown my accounting system. And now instead of being out there doing the cool, sexy stuff like flying drones, you're sitting in your back office going, oh man, I have to convert my accounting system because it can't keep up with me. No, prevent that. Don't let that ever happen. So consider, what's your exit plan? What is your final vision for your business? And here's really what it comes down to. If you plan to have your business around for many, many decades, if you're going to have it around for many, many decades, you're going to need something that's going to evolve with you, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend desktop installed software if it's something that's going to need to grow and evolve with you. Because typically it's the cloud-based applications these days that are really growing and evolving with you, global electromagnetic pulse notwithstanding. So the other thing to consider about your exit is, to what size do you plan on growing your company? Do you need an accounting system that is really full featured, even if you're going to move into just a tiny piece of it now that you can grow into it later? Do you need an accounting system that's not necessarily full featured, but it can integrate with a lot of other things that you can kind of build your own ERP system as time goes by? Versus, look, I just want to fly drones and see if I can cover the house nut while I'm doing it. In that case, go for the most basic cheapy system. So those are some things to consider about why would I ask a strategic question when I'm just talking about accounting software. So that's why it really makes a difference as to your choice and saves you time and money later. That being shared, some of my favorite pros and cons regarding the 3 biggies: QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, and Xero. That's Xero that begins with an X, if you're wondering, if you're going to look it up. So some of my favorite features of QuickBooks Desktop, especially for startups. So first of all, you only have to buy it once. You buy it, you install it on your machine, that's it. And I mean, I know people who are still using QuickBooks version from like 10 years ago. In a very simple and small business, it just doesn't matter. If you're not using the payroll features, if you're not using extra super duper features, it really doesn't matter, you just have to buy it once. And these days it goes for like $150 or $200 for, let's say, QuickBooks Pro single user. Really not a big deal. Another advantage of QuickBooks Desktop, you can get really detailed business intelligence, customer trends, service trends for the types of flights, for example, and how you can use this information is for pricing. Absolutely. And for promotions. Make sure you're designing promotions for the right customer segment, for the right crowd, the right types of flights. Make sure that you're really pricing your flights right. QuickBooks Desktop can really give you that type of detailed information that you need to make that decision. QuickBooks Pro is also the fastest of the 3 programs. So if you or somebody else is doing a lot of manual data entry, QuickBooks Desktop is the way to go. It's definitely the fastest. Also, here's something where QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online have in common. If you're accepting paper checks from customers, QuickBooks has a nice elegant way to deal with that, whereas Xero, not so much. A disadvantage of QuickBooks Desktop is if you're contemplating growing into a company where you're going to have more than one user in the file at the same time making changes, it can get pricey depending on the situation. You might have to move into a hosted solution, but either hosted solutions like Right Networks or Harbor Cloud or Cloud9, or having your own internal server, which in general I don't recommend unless you have an IT support specialist. So all of that can get pricey if you need multiple simultaneous users making changes. Another disadvantage of the desktop version is that it's only accessible on a computer, not a mobile device, and that computer has to be running Windows. It doesn't have to be a PC, it can be a Mac, but you have to have Windows installed in order for QuickBooks Desktop to run on it. There is a version of QuickBooks Desktop called QuickBooks for Mac, but it's not that great. The major advantages of QuickBooks Online that I appreciate, it syncs with more third-party apps than QuickBooks Desktop, project management, CRM, time tracking, invoicing and payment, for example. Also, I mentioned earlier about if you're going to be accepting checks, QuickBooks Online has a good feature for that. There's a QuickBooks Online app, so there's some mobile accessibility. Disadvantages though, and this is the thing that gets me every time. As of today, 2017, there are still frequent outages with QuickBooks Online. So frankly, I don't care what fandangledy features it has. If I can't access them, I'm not getting value from them. But maybe that's not such a big deal for you if you don't need to go into your file that frequently. And maybe that's not such a big deal for you if you're not using the information to make sudden and important life-changing decisions. So if you go in from time to time and there's an outage, oops, it says we have our shoes untied, and you say to yourself, oh bleep, QuickBooks Online may not be the solution for you. But if you say to yourself, hey, who cares? I'll come back and try again tomorrow, no biggie, then that's not something that's a concern for you. It's also slower with data entry. Somebody in their infinite non-wisdom decided that, hey, we should program QuickBooks Online to be really cool and have data entry screens that slide up and down. No, that wastes my time. Really, I have to spend my time on planet Earth watching the screen scroll down so I can type with few keyboard shortcuts, by the way, fewer shortcuts than QuickBooks Desktop. Manage my way through the screen, click, and watch it scroll up again until I can do something else. I could tear my hair out. See this bald spot? That's because of QuickBooks Online right here. So anyhow, also bear in mind that Intuit is really pushing everybody away from QuickBooks Desktop towards QuickBooks Online. Sure, we all get why. The only thing is, you can't really believe the hype, because for years it was, in my opinion, a very problematic product. And as of 2017, they've only fixed the issues and enhanced some things to a certain extent. In my opinion, they're now running around and fixing bugs and trying to make it better. Whereas Xero, and I'll give you my pros and cons about Xero, I just don't encounter bugs. So I just don't. And nobody I know that works with Xero ever encounters bugs with Xero either. So first of all, it syncs with a huge number of third-party apps: project management, CRM, invoicing, analysis, forecasting, time tracking, payment. If your company has an all-digital environment, no paper checks out, no paper checks in, Xero saves you the most amount of time in regular bookkeeping. It handles a lot of things pretty much automatically. Also, for business intelligence, Xero has 2 tracking categories as compared to the one in QuickBooks. So if you're going to build, remember how I said that about strategic thinking earlier on? If your long-term plan is to build a large business in which you might have different ways to slice and dice your business, maybe by location, income, expense, profit, maybe by line of service, income, expense, profit on that whole line of service, you can have that if you have 2 tracking categories. But if you only have one class tracking that they have in QuickBooks, you have to pick. Am I going to have my profit and loss by location, or am I going to have it by service line? Can't have both. So if you want both, Xero is the way to go. There's an amazing app for Xero, and one cool thing that I enjoy, and our clients enjoy this as well in Xero, is that if you run all bills through AP, then and of course, this is a situation in which your company has grown. It's not just you flying drones or other people involved as well. Somebody submits a bill, and in the app or online, you can approve the bill. And there's a record in the software of the fact that you approved it. Auditors love that. Love that. Okay, next up. Alrighty. Oh, and I promised you pros and cons of each. The major dissatisfier I have about Xero, so first of all, it's not as fast as QuickBooks Desktop. It's online and everything is just a little bit slower online than zipping around the keyboard in a locally installed program. The other thing is, if you get paper checks from customers in a batch, you get 3 checks and you take them to the bank and make a single deposit, or if it happens that way, then Xero doesn't handle batches of paper checks very well. If you get 3 checks and you do a remote deposit of each one individually, no big deal. But Xero doesn't handle check batches very well. That was a long answer, but I appreciate you asking the question, and I hope that Jamie's diatribe on QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, and Xero is useful to you or someone you know.